So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Everybody that's here and everybody that is online. We're going to get started with the session about the economic opportunities that we have with sustainable mobility. And just to get started, well, let me introduce myself. I'm Pedro Mier. I'm the president of Ametic. That is a company that has to do with digital industry in Spain. And mobility has really concerned us during last 4 years. And here in Bilbao, with the support of the local government, the city council, the different management organizations, etc., we launched a think tank that was a multi-sector think tank that entailed different companies from different sectors: mobility, electronics, energy, infrastructures, etc., international organizations of standardization, the Space European Agency, and for 3 years we started to work in identifying future scenarios. We made a mistake. We didn't know that we were going to face a pandemic, but the rest of the things were really accurate. If the green parties won, if the populism won, disruptive technologies, etc. When we identified some opportunities, some economic opportunities in every possible scenario that could happen. And it's funny because obviously there are opportunities and business models that can be developed in a favorable scenario or in a very unfavorable scenario. And we will speak about that today. As a consequence of this initiative from Ametic, we proposed what we called pushing macro project of sustainable mobility, that is included in different plans at national level. So it's great that we're here in Bilbao. It is where our think tank was born. Here we have the manager of the think tank, Bernardo. Hello. And we're going to speak about it. And for this we have, we always say that it's a great panel, but in this case it is true. It's a great panel. We have Joao Alamba. Good morning, Joao, from Lisbon.
It's a pleasure to be here.
¿Sí? ¿Nos ves?
Yeah, can you see us?
Yes, very well. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Joao. Nice to be with you this morning. Si hablamos en español,
So if we speak in Spanish, you understand us, right?
Sí, entiendo.
Yeah, I understand. Joe has that profile that we like that much from Spain. He's a very well prepared, he's a very skilled person. He is a very strong politician. He's an economist. He has a PhD by the London School of Economics. He has been participating in the European government when Portugal was holding the presidency. He is an MP. He's the Secretary of State of Energy, and it's a great pleasure to have you with us today. Here on my right, we have Ana Maria Marin, who is the Technical Secretary of SEDETI. SEDETI is, well, I think that you all know it. It is the agency, the most important agency that the companies love the most, so to speak, the one that supports us with technological development. Everybody that's here, well, I've had many years of positive experience with SEDETI, so it's a great privilege to have you here today. She has a very long career in public service. Yep, that's true, absolutely. And now you are the CDT Secretary, so thank you very much, Ana Maria, for being here with us. And here at my left, I have Íñigo de la Serna. He's a very well-known person. He's a civil engineer by the University of Cantabria, and he has been the promoter, one of the big promoters of the sustainable cities, smart cities, etc. When he was the mayor of Santander, he made Santander one of the most important cities with these initiatives. He launched an initiative with which we have a great relationship. This is the network of smart cities. It's a very important initiative. He was a minister for the government of Spain, so I can't think of anybody better to be here. And I don't want to consume more time, so I'll give the floor to Joao. Joao?
Well, good morning. Thanks for the invitation. I would like to approach the theme of this conference through the eyes of the Secretary of State in charge of energy, not in charge of transportation. From the starting from the decarbonization strategy of Portugal, transportation assumes a very relevant role because it represents more than 25% of our total emissions. And starting from the energy sector, we approach mobility, urban mobility, and not only, but sustainable modes of mobility through the eyes of sector coupling and sector integration. So for a decarbonization strategy focused on electrification of end-use consumers, and through the eyes of sector coupling, it is an extraordinary opportunity through the decarbonization of the power sector, to decarbonize also the transport sector with batteries or with hydrogen. Both of them are closely linked with our energy sector decarbonization strategy. So Portugal aims in 2030 to achieve 47% renewables in its final energy consumption. Our target for 2020 was 31%. We had around 34%, but this was a result highly influenced by the pandemic, COVID pandemic in 2020. So the real result was probably more in line with the goal that we have for 2020, which is 31%. So to achieve 47% of renewables in our energy system as a whole, we need to heavily decarbonize our power sector. And our goal for the power sector is renewables, at least 80% of renewables in our power system. But to achieve 47% of renewables in our final energy consumption, electrification of our power system is not enough. We need to decarbonize industry, and we need to decarbonize the transport sector. And this takes us to the subject matter of today's conference. It is through the decarbonization of our energy system that transportation, urban transportation and non-urban transportation, is key to achieve our results. We won't be able to do it without decarbonizing our transport sector. And the electrification of our power system is a great opportunity to do so. I'll give you two examples. One of the challenges to decarbonize our power system is we need to invest in the distribution grid and the transport grid. When we look at energy communities, self-consumption, and transportation together, it is easier through a systemic view of our energy sector to decarbonize in this way, because we know that we will invest heavily on renewables, mainly on solar, but also on wind, less on hydro, because we already have a very high capacity, high installed capacity. But through energy communities, we can support families to decarbonize and also free space in the grid for more electric chargers and more electric vehicles. So this is one of the areas where having a systemic approach to the challenges that decarbonization poses to our energy sector, and looking jointly at renewable energy communities for the power sector, or industrial self-consumption, domestic self-consumption, individual and collective, should be seen together with the challenges of electric mobility, because the more energy communities we have, the more decentralized production we have, and the more renewables in the system we have, we can free loads on the power grid, and thus creating more space for electric vehicles and fast chargers. And so our approach is always to see these realities in systemic terms. So for the if our decarbonization starts with a strong compromise on electrification, we know that electrification is not enough. Is not enough for the power sector, and it's not enough for the energy sector as a whole. And here enters green hydrogen. We believe that we should decarbonize our transportation with electric vehicles and complement it with the hydrogen fuel cell based transportation, mainly heavy duty for passengers and for freight also. And these two modes of mobility, electric with batteries or indirectly electric with hydrogen and fuel cells, allow us to have a systemic view of our entire energy sector. And we need to add also, of course, industry, but let's just look at the power sector and the transport sector jointly. Here, our approach is that decarbonizing our transport sector with batteries and with hydrogen will promote the integration of renewables and will allow us to decarbonize areas where electricity alone would not be enough. We know that there are electric buses, and we are investing a lot on them. We know there are electric trucks, but we also know that for some routes and for longer distances, we should complement these with hydrogen. And that's exactly what we're doing. And both in batteries and both in hydrogen, our approach is that a higher penetration of these two modes of decarbonizing transportations will allow us to better integrate renewable energies in our power system and in our energy system as a whole. Regarding electric mobility with batteries and indirect electric mobility with hydrogen fuel cells, these are the only two modes of transportation that we will finance in our recovery and resilience program. Previous programs in the past 5 years also financed gas, but in our recovery and resilience program, we focused solely on electric vehicles with batteries and buses and trucks with fuel cells. In this regard, electric mobility is more advanced. We have the refueling, the chargers are being deployed at an increasing rate. We need to do more, of course, but Portugal is already well placed in European rankings, both in terms of totals of sales of electric vehicles as well as the penetration of chargers. This has to increase, speed up, and we are doing it. Regarding fuel cells, our approach here is recognizing that it's a market that needs to be created and thus does not exist. We need to tackle production, distribution, and consumption together in an integrated fashion. And that's exactly what we're doing in our recovery and resilience program. So we are simultaneously, we have CapEx support mechanisms to invest in, for example, production of hydrogen or in hydrogen refueling stations, but we also have OpEx support mechanisms that will basically subsidize fuel switching from the existing fossil consumption to hydrogen or other renewable or transportation based on other renewable gases such as biomethane. And here, what we're trying to support are integrated projects. So, for example, yes, we support projects engaged in purely production of hydrogen, but we rank higher projects where production is already integrated with distribution and consumption. So, for example, two projects of the same size in terms of hydrogen production, but one of them has one or more refueling stations and then has one or more transportation companies, be it in the passenger service or freight, will rank higher in the recovery and resilience program, exactly because we want to approach all of these matters in an integrated fashion. And we believe it is easier to get projects off the ground if we approach them like this. So all projects in hydrogen will be ranked higher if they present themselves to when they apply for public funding in the recovery and resilience program in an integrated fashion. This poses a challenge, of course, because it requires for the projects to be developed that certain areas that don't usually work together, energy companies plus end-use consumers, we force them, well, don't force them, but we give them strong incentives to present themselves jointly and so integrate their projects. For us, this is a key feature of all the areas where hydrogen will be used, and in particular in the transport sector. Our goals for the transport sector for 2030 are ambitious. We have 20% of renewables in the transport sector as a goal for 2030, and we want to define targets not only for renewables in the transport sector, but a specific target for electric vehicles and a specific target for fuel cell vehicles. We believe that electric mobility is superior to hydrogen and fuel cells in terms of efficiency, but there is a role, an important role for fuel cells. So Portugal will try to support both. This will be an exciting decade for Portugal and for the decarbonization of the energy sector, and of course, and also it will be a very exciting decade for the transport sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joao. Thank you very much. Y después de la presentación de Joao.
And after Joao's presentation, well, we are going with SEDETI. That's fostering technological innovation in industry, and these opportunities, these economic opportunities that we will speak about today will be possible if we have innovation, and SEDETI will have an important role to play. Ana Maria? I think that I have a problem with my sound. Can you hear me? You can speak from here, or if you want to go to the lectern. Yeah, I'm going to make a presentation. Well, first of all, Egunon, good morning. I'm happy to be in Bilbao. That has been a city where I've lived for many years, so it's a great pleasure to be here. And it is since the last time I came here, it is when I left, eventually. So it's great to be here again. And well, in SEDETI, as Pedro was saying, well, it's great to be here with you this morning. We have an important role to play, not only with recovery funds, but we have an engine effect with the economy. We need to have this proposal. We need to have this demand. We need that companies have the opportunity of not only presenting projects, but we need the products and the things that we need in order to favor all of this. But we need to give the opportunity, not only to be on demand, but also to. Well, I won't speak. I won't speak anymore. I will go to the presentation because in the end I'm going to speak. I'm going to tell everything from here. So for those of you who don't know SEDETI or want to have a side approach, well, I would like to give you some details of what SEDETI is. It's a public company that depends on the Ministry of Science and Innovation. That, well, the goal of which is to finance projects to improve the technological level of Spanish companies at many levels, but especially in R&D and I. Since 1997, sorry, I think there's an issue with the presentation. It's not this one. I don't know whose is this one, but this is not mine. Well, this happens. Life problems. We can do whatever you want. Either we change it, or in the meantime, I'll keep on talking, no problem. SEDETI is, as I was saying, is an innovation agency. It has been working since 1977, and I think that it is a very efficient tool regarding the needs that business innovation has in order to give an answer to these financing needs of the business sector. I was speaking about the closeness, agility, and adaptation. These are key as anticipation. These are key during these 40 years in order to reach sectors where it is necessary to have that push, that drive, and in order to improve the capabilities of Spanish companies. Regarding the R&D&I support, we have subsidies, direct subsidies, with that have been processed from the EU or other international organizations. We not only have subsidies, I think that we are the main channel of the R&D&I subsidies in Spain, but we also try to support companies in order to give them a break, in order for them to improve their capacity to face these R&D&I projects. So we've been working with Invierte for a couple of years. This is company that has to do with venture capital. We are accompanying the private sector in investments, and we bet on investing capital directly, giving oxygen to Spanish companies. On the other hand, regarding the internalization of R&D&I, we have an outer network that is being reinforced during last years, and we want to keep reinforcing it, since it is key to reach these R&D&I funds in the on a global scale. We have a very interesting presence in Horizonte Europa, and of course in spatial programs and dual technologies. I think that we are a key piece regarding the ESA programs, or in big facilities where we foster these industrial returns at big, for example, research facilities, like, for example, CERN. And as I was saying, we give advice to companies in everything they could need. So I encourage all the business people that are listening to us on streaming or here to have a look on SEDETI, that have a look on all the funding programs that we have, and we encourage them to prepare technological projects, R&D&I projects. And just to give some figures, I think that figures are important. I'm a mathematician, so to me, they are especially relevant. Since 1977, we have developed more than 27,600 projects. I think that in 40 years, we have quite an important average, and 28.1 billion euros have been mobilized for R&D&I in Spain. I think that this is quite a cautious figure. 17.1 billion, as you can see on screen, are direct support, and 11 billion belong to international programs. What I wanted to convey, and I think that I said this at the beginning, in this adaptation, in that wish of adaptation wish from SEDETI, we need not only to be on demand from companies, but also to be proactive regarding our management strategy. This has made that in a couple of years, or maybe a little bit more, our support structures are not only horizontal, are not only on demand, but also trying to foster and to have a tractor effect and more proactive effect. So we could say that it is vertical, or looking for initiatives for companies, or solving challenges from society that we understand that are necessary in R&D&I. One of these ones is the one that is the main topic of this Congress. And now I'm going to speak about the specific programs that SEDETI has in order to support this initiative. So within the Sustainable Mobility Action Plans, I'm going to speak about two. We have the Automotive Technological Plan, Sustainable Automotive Technological Plan, and within the great missions of a big program, maybe the most important one in SEDETI, that is the missions program. The sixth mission in this call has been devoted to sustainable, intermodal, and smart transport. So with this mission, we have wanted to complement both the Sustainable Automotive Technological Plan and the Aeronautical Technological Program, what we've called PETA and PTA. A complement of these two specific programs has been the sixth mission of our program, Misiones, missions in English. Regarding, I'm going to speak a little bit about what have been about what the figures have been. The Sustainable Mobility Technological Program, well, its call was over 1 month ago. In fact, during these days at the Congress, I've been able to talk to some members of the Congress that have presented some plans, some projects for this plan. And they couldn't go on holiday because it was in August when we have had to do these things. We have had no choice because, as you know, subsidy is with the recovery plan funds, with mechanism of the recovery plan. So in order to be able to execute them, we needed that the calls were as soon as possible. So this is what has happened. So today I can give you information about what the requests have been. We've had 19 consortia, 111 participations, and they've requested 96 million euros. We will issue our resolution in December, and we have had 16 consortia. We have had 84 companies in the mobility mission. They've requested for 61 million euros, and the call will be resolved in December. So in the 4 minutes left, I would like to explain what the Sustainable Automotive Technological Plan has done. What have been the challenges? The first challenge has to do with new technologies in electric vehicles, connectable hybrid vehicles, and hydrogen vehicles. We've focused on different hybrid system. We've wanted to reinforce the different infrastructures of electrical recharging in case of modulable hydrogen or with integration in energy networks. A second challenge that we've tried to chase has been autonomous driving and connected mobility. AI for decision making in the vehicle and even in infrastructures that will support these energy charging so that the vehicle can be autonomous. We've also focused on sign-in and communication with vehicles on the road and other infrastructures, as well as on physical safety of the vehicle and cybersecurity in order to avoid sabotage or intruders. We have tried to integrate complex models of smart cities or fleet management systems. And last but not least, a third challenge that was about new productive environments for the electric vehicle, plug-in hybrid vehicle, or hydrogen vehicle. This way, we wanted to focus on safe robotic systems, collaborative robots, virtual and augmented reality systems, and on the additive manufacturing of its materials, new materials with improved properties. I think that this is key. And on logistic systems of flexible automatic systems and integration technologies of components and technologies in vehicles. And I wanted to highlight within the missions program that I was talking about this with yesterday, and out of the 9 missions, the 6th one has been tackling the intermodal sustainable smart transport. And as I was saying before, this mission completes the challenges that have been set in the aeronautic technological plan and the sustainable automotive technology plan that I've tackled on previous slides. The main fields of action for intermodal transport, sustainable smart transport, are about transport and logistics optimization, digital platforms, AI, and blockchain, renewable sources of energy like hydrogen, robotization and automation in cargo transfer. This mission was focused on promoting, as I was saying, the smart and sustainable transport, and to support the development of technologies that seek for optimizing the railway transport, the sea transport, the road transport, and intermodal transport, linked logistics, and the air transport systems, as far as this air traffic contributes to transport. And I think that with this, well, this is what I had prepared, and well, absolutely on time. 1 second, so that's fine. I always tend to beat around the bush, so I think that I've behaved very well. I don't know if you have any questions, or if we do it later. Okay, thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Ana María, y es cumplimiento.
Thank you, Ana Maria, for sticking to time. Yep, you saw it, right? Yeah, that's good. Thank you very much. Well, now Inigo will take the floor.
Muy bien.
Bueno, muy buenos días a todos.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here, first of all. Thanks to the sponsors, especially to Petronor, with Emiliano López Achurra, its CEO, and the City Council of Bilbao, thanks to its mayor, Juan Mari Aburto. I don't have any presentation. I just want to convey some of the reflections that I would like to make about the topic that we're dealing with, and this is about economic opportunities that we can find in sustainable mobility. And I will start by saying something that I think is important, and this is the situation in Europe, because obviously the opportunities, the good opportunities, the real opportunities won't be fruitful if we don't do it with the EU hand in hand. And the EU right now, in my opinion, has some aspects that make it difficult to accomplish or to be able to take full power of the capacities that the continent has. First of all, the strategic approach. 15 years ago, the president of the commission, that you can find it on the internet, exposed the well, we were at the discussion about the situation of the union. If you see it, there's a lot that has to do with social aspects, environmental aspects, defense, some statements that have to do with defending the EU, but in my opinion, not very many strategic approaches that can make Europe recover part of the competitiveness that it's losing compared to other geopolitical areas. She was speaking about two big projects: the chip law that was being announced by the president, and of course, well, I don't think that it doesn't matter how good this law is, I think it won't be able to revert a situation that's the one that you can see on the slide. A loss of relevance in the bond with the microprocessors manufacturing in favor of other areas of the planet. Secondly, she was speaking about a project that was called Bridge Europe, or something like that, that wanted to compete against the Silk Route, the Chinese project. I had the opportunity of being there with President Mariano Rajoy. The conditions for this route, and I think that maybe the president said so, is that the Eastern countries are in line with Chinese strategic approaches, but when a bank such as the Chinese one offers the condition that it offers, and it sets a conditionality so that the raw materials that are used are Chinese, that the companies that manufacture or that build the infrastructures are Chinese companies, and to give priority to the marketing of Chinese products, there's no one that can compete against this, especially if we have a regulation framework as strict as the one that we have. I'm speaking especially about the aspects linked to competition. This is the change that the companies are dealing with, and the component of the ones that have a higher capitalization. It's a dramatic change in a very short time. So today the world is about this. It's about technology and about generating scale economy that are powerful enough to be able to be very competitive. And the truth is that our own European regulations that we have self-imposed in terms of data protection or in terms of competitiveness don't make it easy that we can reach critical masses like the ones that these big companies have in other big places. So that loss of competitiveness has its explanation in the management of these resources. And in this context, we have the next generation funds that are, without any kind of doubt, the great opportunity factor that our country has. I'm sure that the success that we will or won't that we will have or no or won't have in this sense depends on how we will manage these funds. But I have my doubts in the sense that they are going to entail a change in the productive model. I think that they will be a boost to the economic growth, but I hardly believe that they are going to generate a change in the productive model. Why? Because we have some limiting factors that are important. Some of them are there, structural, like for example, we are in a country where the PPP culture is not enough. I'm not speaking about Sedetti. I'm speaking about public authorities, generally speaking. There are very good examples, but I'm seeing this during these last months when I'm setting some projects in the business sector. We find situation where it's not easy for administration to say, this company, well, I'm going to have some resources for this project, and many public officials say, and why for this one and not for the other one? And thus cumbersome regulation that we have with experience, but not enough. We need this to lubricate all this very well in order to be able to access to these funds. And we need to land some other projects that are included in the recovery, transformation, resilience project. But mainly speaking, we could have two topics. Have the limitation of the productive factors that can make some of these projects that get funds not to have a response capacity in order to fulfill the deadlines that have been set. And this not only has to do with Spain. I'm not even speaking about chips. Yesterday, I was at a meeting with businessmen in Alicante, and many of them were concerned because for example, they have seen that the freights have multiplied by 5 in the case of the ones that are able to find a freight. So in the engineering and building sector, well, they are concerned with the increase of steel that has multiplied by 4. Once again, China has half of the world production. So there are some factors that are an imbalance between a very fast recovery of demand, that is the one that we are seeing, but a slower recovery of supply. As it's logical after what we've lived with the COVID. And we need them to be balanced again in order to be able to use these funds. And timing. Well, during the first half of this year, the official results said that we had managed around 1.2 billion euros. That was around there was about 5% of the initial amount that had been forecasted. So now we need to be hurry. And when we hurry, things sometimes don't work. That's not good to control the projects that are being presented or to have quality projects. As Ana Maria was saying, many companies haven't had holidays, and well, the deadlines were quite reasonable, but there are some deadlines and some calls that are 10 days. So what could happen? A bad presentation of the projects, and some SMEs that are key in the use and management of the funds don't have the capacity to run for projects with enough quality, and they miss the opportunity to access these funds. So we need to recover that time, but to recover it with in a smart way and with projects that are executable, and especially not to go to the easiest thing. This will be to have mature projects that will be in line with European funds, but won't mean a great transformation of the productive tissue. I'm sure that ADIF, just to mention a company, has a projects volume that is humongous in order to consume a big part of the European funds. I'm sure that this is the case, and I'm totally in favor of ADIF doing this. For example, in this here in Bilbao, in the Basque Country because it's really necessary for the railway integration, like, for example, with tunneling projects, like, for example, in Bilbao. And I'm sure that that's going to mean a transformation of our productive tissue. And we will need projects, as the one that Ana Maria has mentioned before, in terms of digitalization. And what do we have to do for that? I would say two things. Dear Ana Maria, to delegate more on regions and city councils, to take as much as we can out of the potential that the regions and the city council have, because they will be very close to SMEs and they can help an administration who will find it difficult to manage such big volumes of projects in more than 50%. It doesn't. There's no problem if they have to manage 75 or 80% as far as they have set the goals at national level, and to empower the private sector. They are the ones that are innovating, are creating jobs, and well, that's not what the public administrations do. We need to give certainty to the public sector. We do not have to add uncertainty to uncertainty in BUCA environments. We need to make decisions without ideological biases. We need to be supported by technical projects that tell us why we do some things. For example, technological neutrality, that is key to accomplish the environmental goals. We need to give stability. I think that in some key aspects that have been included in this program, the fact of reaching national agreements and social agreements is key. We need to have regulation flexibility, tax policy. We don't have to tighten and to squeeze companies anymore, no matter they are freelancers, big companies, because sometimes when they say big companies, that's a little bit sometimes pejorative. They are dragging many auxiliary companies' budgets and they are creating a lot of jobs. So we need to walk the talk, basically. I won't get into the mobility trends because there have been many other roundtables about this, but I would like to mention some of these challenges with some ideas. We have the growth challenge ahead of us. Let's see what happens with the stability policies application. We have 123% of public debt, so sooner or later we'll have to make some adjustments, and we'll see how that works as time goes by. We have the environmental challenge. The CEO of Repsol some days ago said that, well, he was in favor of the European Green Deal, and I'm also in favor of it, but always from the technological neutrality. The important thing are the goals and not the specific technology that we have to apply, and from transition. So when we say transition, it is transition. I mean, to give time enough for the companies in this country to adapt themselves to these new environmental conditions. 15 days ago, at a congress in Valencia of the cooling transport sector, they are concerned because 95% of the fleet is diesel, and technology is being launched. We have many small companies, freelancers that don't have capacity to renew their fleet, and we need to give time to that part of the economy if we don't want them to be set aside. So the CEO of Repsol said that, well, he was concerned about the expenses in emissions. In mobility, that's very important. We have, let's see the automotive sector, let's see the balance, and let's see what has happened with some important companies when you see the expenses that they've had last year. Very big expenses, very high expenses, because they have not been able to produce electric vehicles. I think that there are some proposals like the ones that Josu John Imaz mentioned about launching more CO2 rights to the market in order to reduce prices, and that's quite reasonable in my opinion. We have the technological challenge. I would say that the opportunities will come when we find real business models, Pedro knows a lot about this. In smart cities, this has always been an issue, finding business models so that the private sector can operate the smart cities paradigm. The point that it has not been operated yet is that it is difficult in some cases to find this business model, and mobility is a great example too. Because if we see, especially micromobility, if we see the projects that are ongoing, many of them have a doubtful viability. Many companies are positioning in the market to get a market share at the expense of penetration of the companies in order to have a viable accomplishment. Spain is the second most attacked country in the world. We were at Hotel Meliá that had suffered a cyber attack. This is an essential topic. We have been talking about this, the projects that we'll have about autonomous driving, connected vehicles, and now if there's a cyber attack and we run out of WhatsApp for 8 hours, but in some years there will be a cyber attack in a hyper-connected world with autonomous cars, with the energy networks, and it will be chaotic. It will be chaotic, if not a very important safety issue. And the ethical problems, and I'm just going to mention that because I've run out of time. Ana Maria is much more intelligent than me, and she has been doing this from. She was making the presentation from her seat, and the time was not counting. I'll use one last minute in these three slides. So mobility plans. 10 years ago, when I was in the mayor, every city in Spain had sustainable mobility plans. Today, there's no one city in this country with a sustainable plan that reflects what's happening outside, because technology has hit us, and we are unable to foresee what's happening. This is what has happened with Uber, with taxis, with skates. I was listening to an electric skates company that said, well, I'm moving to the city because they've regulated this part. We need a national strategy. And we need to support city councils for them and the regions to work on sustainable mobility plans that necessarily, not as it used to happen, have to be linked to strategies of managing energy. So it's not about mobility on the one side and the energy plan on the other side. No, that's not the point. Now it makes no sense to have a sustainable mobility plan if it is not given sense from the distributed energy projects. So we need a homogeneous regulation framework. We need to stop speaking about the modernization of infrastructures. I'm speaking about the management models of our highways, for example. I've seen that Sedeti has some projects, for example, with the cargo sector. A lot of investment. I mean, this is an example of the fiber deployment in our infrastructures. Let's take advantage of the capital that we have to develop smart infrastructures, financing these projects. And we need, of course, a technological adaptation. And for this, the SMEs will have to be supported by technological partners. And careful, because now there are many companies that have technological partners. But look what's happening in China, the biggest market of electric vehicles in the world. You are not the technological partner anymore. The big technological partners are the mobility managers, the ones that are getting into the manufacturing of vehicles. We'll move from having partners to have new competitors in this global scenario that will be these companies that I was mentioning at the beginning. And the last one, something that I like to speak about, it's talent. That's very good. We have a lot of money. We have many companies with a great potential in our country, but we need to identify talent in the companies. We need to devote resources. Yesterday we were speaking about cybersecurity, and we said that 88% of companies have progress in digital transformation, but for example, just 55% were aware that this could make them more vulnerable in front of an attack, that there could be some additional risks. So these things require to have people with talent. And for this, we need that our education system changes dramatically. I've worked in the headhunting world too. If you compare what companies are asking for and what we are offering in our education systems, you see that we have great gaps. The last surveys say that close to 70% of companies admitted not to be able to find the profiles, not only with management capabilities, but also technological capabilities that they needed in order to adapt to such a changing situation as the one we have. So we have humongous changes in front of us. So as far as we can reach these agreements and we can coordinate efforts without taking things for granted or anything like that, we should take advantage of the administration, and we will be able to foster that change in the productive model in this country. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Íñigo.
Thank you, Inigo.
Presentaciones llenas de ideas, la verdad es.
We've seen many ideas in this presentation. They're being very healthily provocative, so to speak. We could spend here the whole morning. We have 15 minutes to try to make remarks. There has been a common thread, and it makes me think, in positive, of the role that we are playing from Amitic. I was listening to the Metropolis Foundation CEO last week, and he said something that I strongly believe in. He said, the era of competitiveness is over. Now we are in the era of collaboration, and who does not understand it will be in trouble. And you've talked about this constantly, about this and about the need, the risk and difficulties that we are able to make this opportunity into more industry, because I guess that everybody has to be sure that industry is a need. We have seen the role that it has played during the pandemic, the different role that we've seen in the different countries, and today to have industry is to have innovation. Without innovation, the industry would be over. So, I would like to ask some specific questions to some of you, and the general questions. I'll get started by Joao. Joao, do you understand me in Spanish?
English.
Yes, I do. But you want me to answer?
We don't hear it.
I have a problem with sound.
Your sound?
I can hear you.
No, okay. ¿Me entiendes?
Sí.
Well, in any case, I do it in English. Taking in account the paper that Portuguese companies such as EDP is playing in the energy arena in Spain, do you believe that are there good possibilities or cooperation in innovation between Portugal and Spain, or the Portuguese companies and Spanish companies, or taking advantage of these positions or new that can appear?
Yes. Collaboration is key, and especially around strategic value chains that are relevant for the Iberian future. We currently have, for example, a heavy transportation project that only makes sense with strong collaboration. And I'm talking about installing hydrogen refueling stations along the A25 highway that connects the sea in Portugal close to Aveiro to Vila Formoso on the border between Spain and Portugal. This is a project that some companies are presenting to our recovery and resilience program, but it's a project that would only make sense if Spain continues on its side of the border until France, because it is at the end a project around the 10T network, the Trans-European Network for Transportation. The new Fit for 55 package says that in all the 10T networks, we need to have a hydrogen refueling station every 150 kilometers. But some of these projects only make sense if Portugal and Spain do their work at the same time. Otherwise, it won't make sense. So this is an example where a very relevant sustainable mobility project, for it to happen, we need to have collaboration and synchrony of investments between Portugal and Spain. Other areas where collaboration is key is on strategic value chains. For example, when we look at the relevance of the auto sector in Iberian Peninsula, we are when jointly considered, Portugal and Spain are very relevant players in the car manufacturing business within the European context. Of course, with the electrification of mobility, this presents a challenge to Portugal and to Spain. We need to have the battery value chain in the Iberian Peninsula, and for us to have the battery value chain, we need collaboration. I'll give you an example. We will have probably a lithium refinery in Portugal. There is a project that applied to the Recovery and Resilience Program. Well, there's no room for many lithium refineries in the Iberian Peninsula, but the battery value chain goes beyond the lithium refinery. And Portugal and Spain jointly be present in that value chain. So we need to coordinate our positions and investments there if we have a robust battery value chain, and thus a sustainable mobility value chain in the Iberian Peninsula. So in all areas, collaboration has always been key in all areas. We always need a mix of collaboration and competition. But I would say, agreeing completely with what you said at the beginning, that particularly in the energy world and mobility, where systems are the way to approach these realities. These are not a single atomic set of realities where you have transportation on one side, energy on the other. No, this is an integrated approach to energy systems. And to have an efficient integrated approach to energy systems, collaboration becomes a centerpiece of all of the strategy. So yes, we need to collaborate, and there are huge gains in collaborating. Thank you.
Thank you, Joao. Ana María, en tu presentación.
So, Ana Maria, during your presentation, you've been talking about industry as it can be different.
Tecnológico.
Because you belong to the Center for Industrial and Technological Development, and I agree with Inigo when saying that that's the big challenge, the big opportunity, the big job that we have in order to generate and reinforce industry according to innovation. So from Ametic, we have been defending since the beginning what we have called macro strategies. If we had to rename them, we would say strategic country actions, and the difficulties that we have to align different ministries and the different mechanisms of the organization. But if we don't have a common approach, it will be impossible to have that attraction. So the question would be, first of all, focused on the automotive sector. It has on the automotive per se. So how you coordinate your programs, your initiatives, your requests with other ministries, like, for example, the Ministry of Industry, that is very important, and of course with the users of transport, mobility, etc. But particularly speaking, how do you coordinate with the Ministry of Industry in order to look for that tractor effect that we're looking for? So individually, we don't have a direct collaboration with different ministries when launching these calls. I think that the Ministry of Industry has some competences that do not get in contradiction with our own or with the Ministry of Industry competences. So every entity has different different competences. For example, we have the next generation funds, the recovery mechanism, and our challenges. I've talked about these three main challenges, and I think that they do not get in contradiction with the challenge that the Ministry of Industry has regarding the automotive PERTE. Regarding the collaboration, the recovery funds, I think that cooperation and management has been really difficult, determination, etc. But I mean, I think that that's really difficult. And we have had the certainty of the amounts. I don't know if maybe late, but we have had to keep on working, and I know the calls very well because it is one of my tasks in SEDETI, and we have had to do that on record time. And we had a great experience in calling for subsidies, etc. Our IT systems are adapted. We have our machinery working, so maybe that's not been the case of other ministries or other authorities. Regarding, I mean, there's no common call between two ministries. The budget of each ministry is not shared. I mean, when launching a call, I don't know, Pedro, if that's what you wanted to say or not. They have challenges, they have a budget, we have another budget, we have other challenges, we try to help each other. We have been talking to the ministry and to the Secretary of State and of Industry, not only in the automotive PERTE, but also regarding other topics, like, for example, in the aerospace sector and the aeronautic PERTE, the PTA. But every ministry has its own calls, its challenges, its destinies or destinations, and we can't share that budget. We can collaborate in other ways, but we can't do this with a common call of some ministries. But there's a budget issue. And as we were saying, sometimes maybe it would be great that everything was favorable to cooperation. But the truth is that we have regulation regarding the economic management of every ministry, justification, etc., that is really difficult to share. Of course, I would like to say that we understand the different administrations, of course. We know how difficult this is. But now I won't be inside, but outside the administration. So this should be useful to create industry. We all agree on that. So if we were in an ideal world, or if we were in the world of the companies, we would say, hey, these are the main goals. We need to create maybe a great projects office where authorizations like SEDETI would have to play a key role. because you have a great experience in managing all this with companies. And everything that comes next, they are problems that have to be solved. They can't be limiting, because otherwise we would be lost. I know that what I'm saying could sound like, well, this man is crazy, but if we don't solve this problem, this won't be solved. We have been insisting on this topic from Ametic. We have made a proposal to the government of a shared management, so to speak, a PP management, combining good managers from the public sector. We have very good ones with good managers from the business world. So if the first difficulty, it says that this budget's here, this budget's there, now we have the intervention there, we are dead. This won't work in any case. So the doubt that Iñigo was expressing, well, I totally agree with that doubt. Yeah, I agree with Ana Maria. In Sereti, she has an experience that makes that these projects don't have the difficulties that other ministries have. In some cases, some of them were going to follow the call route, but now they say that they were going to go to a regular tender because they have their administration boundaries and they need to have legal guarantees in some cases. It was an old presentation. I had brought a new one where we didn't have that of SEAT. I know that the companies are making a great effort, but I mean that it's very difficult to make a specific bet when you have to address that later on, because there are other companies that could access to these proposals. So how do ministries work? Well, and as Ana Maria has said, everybody has its own budget, and there's a ministry that is there's the Treasury Department. When you have executed a percentage of that execution, it limits the execution possibilities. So luckily, I've been working for the most investing ministry. I wouldn't have been able to manage the volume of billions in euros that are included in the budgets that we have today. It is very difficult. When I say I mean the administration structure that we have. It is impossible. It is impossible. So what do you have to do? Well, we need to have flexibility in the regulation, guaranteeing transparency, regulation, concurrence, etc. Take advantage of the fact that in this management there's a direct support with the business sector and with the same transparency, but with experts that help us solve some problems that could be difficult for a ministry, and to be supported by other administrations. When there are some supporting lines by a ministry and they are unable to spend them because of administration problems or financing problems, and these economic supports, well, I saw that, for example, the EDI support for energy efficiency. As soon as there were 100 million euros for example, efficiency in traffic lights to include LED technology. In 1 month, we spent it in 1 month. So local and regional initiatives in this country it's humongous. So it's important to squeeze it as much as we can. So what's my fear? In the end, maybe we can get into political troubles. I won't give any resources to this community because they do not belong to my political party. I'm not going to speak to the city council because, well, you know what I mean. It's difficult to understand that if we're going to be given 200 million in order to change the waste system, so from the regions, it's difficult to understand that they are not giving money to city councils, that are the ones that will have to put the trucks, the buckets, etc. So we are not living in a world where people vote for you because you are sharing money with them. No, this is not about these marketing campaigns. We live in a world where what really matters is that when we get to the 31st of December and we take a picture to see whether we've been able to manage the money that we've been given or not, in that picture, we shouldn't be embarrassed. That is the point. I think that everybody should be smart enough to leave all these topics aside for other political battles, if you know what I mean, and to focus on what is really important. So great, Inigo. I've just been told, as they do with bullfighters, that we have to wrap up. It's a shame because there are many interesting topics, and we could be talking here for hours. Maybe we can continue on another day. We have been tackling very interesting topics: innovation, industry, the necessary transformation of the administration. That's really forgotten. We speak about the transformation of companies. The public authorities have to transform exactly the same way because it won't be balanced with what's happening in the world. Some topics that Inigo has mentioned, like, for example, the strategic view, the recovery of this European strategic view in order to face the real threats in the technology world and the industry world that come from China, for example, the chips. And sorry for the interruption. I know that we've run out of time. They're going to send us off. We have an energy company here, and today every single newspaper and every single news program say that Europe is sitting down to see what strategy is going to adopt in the energy sector with the dependency that we have. If you read the challenges that the European Union was facing 15 years ago, there was nothing except a couple of references to hydrogen, etc. But there was no long-term view proposal like the one that we need right now. So we need a much more accurate long-term view. I'm sorry, but we need to stick to time. So, yeah, I'd like to highlight before wrapping up, that from SEDETI there's a great collaboration with regions, and every year we were unable to hold it because of the pandemic, but on the 13th and the 14th there will be a meeting with all the people in charge of funds of the different regions. We hold this meeting every year. We will be in Salamanca, and we have a very active collaboration, as it couldn't be different. And, well, just to wrap up, I would like to say that we have had different mechanisms in order to manage things in a more agile way. Like, for example, a royal decree in order to speed up the tramitation of different tenders so that we can channel the funds as fast as possible. But I'm sure that, well, I don't know if that's enough. It has been very helpful for us just to make this management more agile. It has been very good regarding the collaboration agreements that we've set for the pre-commercial buying process in order not to need reports or tax authorizations or from public administrations when signing these agreements. But yes, it's difficult. So they're going to cut the mics. Yeah, maybe we should continue on another day. Yeah. A big round of applause, please. I think that it's very, it has been really interesting. Thank you. Thank you very much. Great pleasure.
Bueno.